Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the folks at home. Okay, is there any public comment on the agenda items? On the agenda items? Oh, anybody? Anybody? No? Okay, very good. Okay, we have two sets of minutes. One of them is from the, where we got it here. One set of minutes is from May the 24th at our regular meeting. I have a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried, thank you. And we had a special meeting of the town board on June the 3rd. Our town clerk had trouble putting them out, but it took her 3 tries, but she got it on the last try. I have a motion to approve.
I'll just make the motion that maybe Justin Ryder is not a council member, but he's council. At least that's what my minutes show.
Oh, even the 3rd try you messed up.
Just with that correct.
Okay, I have a motion with a correction on Justin. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so carried, thank you. Communications. I have a pile of papers in front of me, so excuse me for going through all of this. I have a letter from Tiffany Montalese, who is the secretary to the Highway Department, and she is asking or suggesting that she could be appointed to the position of dial-a-bus manager. She currently holds a time position that she gets 29 hours a week. If we were to bring her up to 40 hours a week, that would make her a full-time employee. And she thinks she would like the job, and I think it's a great idea. We're not going to vote on it tonight, but I think it's a great idea. That way, the dial-a-bus will be covered 40 hours a week from the Highway Department, and the phone would be answerable 8 hours a day. So I think it's a great idea. Is there any comments on that?
Yeah, I would just say that the current dial-a-bus director highly recommends Tiffany,
Yes.
and for the reasons of her qualifications and some experience previously working with West Point Tours. So I just wanted to make sure that be known by the board.
Okay.
Bob, does she work 29 hours a week now?
Yes, yeah. So this would make her a full-time employee and enjoy the benefits of,
Work the numbers. I mean, so she's making about 26 grand a year. And what the dial-a-bus person makes, as long as we're all committed to dial-a-bus, which I am, I think that it's not a bad idea.
well, if we're all in agreement, we can vote on it tonight. And Kelly, can we vote on this with no problem?
I think you need to transfer the function of the dial-a-bus to the highway department so that there's one title.
Okay.
So that the highway secretary's duties include the dial-a-bus.
Okay, well, we'll ask Justin to put that together for our next meeting where we'll
Okay.
transfer
think
the
it's really-
authority. And
Sure.
Okay.
I'll coordinate that with Kelly.
Okay, very good. Now I'm going to mention something that I don't totally understand, so please forgive me if I fumble around here a little bit. There was important information about your drinking water. It was put into the village bills, the sewer bills. which just came out just the other day. What I've got to say also has to do with the town outside the village, because if you have municipal water, it's village water. And apparently, the village water didn't pass a certain test on removing TOC in their filters. TOC is total organic carbon. Now, if you're vulnerable, and that's a great word, if you're vulnerable, if you're sick, if you're old, your immunity's down, what have you, you should check with your doctor before you drink the village water. There's no need to boil the water, and there's no need to stop drinking the water. But if you feel as though you may be vulnerable, then check with your doctor to make yourself feel better. Brian, what do you know about this?
I called the water department and he stated what you stated, there's really no danger. But if you have a weak immune system or something else, then you should talk to the doctor.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions on it? Yes?
Are they doing anything to correct the issue?
Yes.
Do they know when that would be corrected by, or has it already been corrected?
The way Jack, I knew it began with a J though, said that it's fine, they have corrected it.
Oh.
It was a warning.
I think it's just doing maintenance on the filters better than what they've done in the past.
You had a question back there.
Yes?
When did they know about it, and did they wait to notify people because it was a...
Good question. They knew about it in March,
They knew about it in March.
right? They sent water bills out in May. So I don't know why we couldn't have been notified in May.
Yeah.
So, and that's a mistake that I hope won't be repeated.
Okay, no, thank you.
And again, I'm not sure if you understand the water situation here in town. The village has the plant. They're the one that processes the water and everything. Then we buy it from the village in Fort Montgomery, in the water district. So we have nothing to do with filtering it or doing anything like that. We're using the water from the village. Any other comments or questions or anything? Olga, what do you think about this?
I think even May was too late.
Okay. Oh, absolutely, yes. I don't know why I couldn't. You know, and if we're talking about dollars and cents, we're talking peanuts to send a postcard out or something like that. That's not a big deal. So,
Could have used the alert system that they have for free.
Right. Why
There you go.
wait 2 months? Or in this case, 3 months.
and I went on the village website, and they have reports from 2009 to 2018. But that's it. So there's no reason why it couldn't be on there either. So anyway, let's hope it gets corrected. Okay, Independence Day. Town board members, you are all invited to the 52nd 4th of July parade, which will take place on the 4th of July. Kickoff will be at 3 o'clock at Buffalo Soldiers Field. Everyone should be at the field no later than 2:30. And they're having a ceremony at Memorial Park on July the 3rd at 6 p.m. honoring Grand Marshals. There'll also be a band concert that same night. Danny and the Cruisers will play, and join us for this and the other special events. I received a contract license for the town of Highlands to put an antenna on West Point's Tower 2. That's the relay, is that the right word? Yeah, it's the relay tower that our police uses. And there was no charge for this license, although they say in here, any electricity used up there by us will be charged to us appropriately, but they've never charged us for the electricity either. So it's a good thing.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Independence Day. Town board members, you are all invited to the 52nd 4th of July parade, which will take place on the 4th of July. Kickoff will be at 3 o'clock at Buffalo Soldiers Field. Everyone should be at the field no later than 2:30. And I Kelly Picaro. I never say your name right. I never will. I'm going to start calling you Kelly Blauvelt. She created a new web page for our website for employment opportunities. If anyone has anything to post, send me an email with the details of the position, and I will post it. I will also put a message on Facebook directing people to check the website. Olga, I have your proposal for a EV charging line at Fort Montgomery. Would you like to present a little bit to the board? And doing so, would you please go up to the microphone?
She would love to. Thank you, Olga.
Well, thank goodness I have cheat sheets here. Okay, thank you very much. I had talked to a number of vendors who do these types of electric vehicle charging station installations and purchases, and this particular company representative has put together a proposal that it's considered a turnkey proposal, in which case, they come in and do everything. Actually, with the exception of a couple of things like installing ballards. But the price of the project, which includes 2-port charging station and the installation, 90% of the installation and all of the cost of the charging stations are covered through NYSERDA funding grants. So it's a total project value of $35,120, which once we apply all of the NYSERDA rebates, comes down to $3,936 for this particular project. So that would be a cost that would accrue to the town. I have kind of presented the option of possibly offering advertising on that charging station to local businesses who might want to use that mechanism. It's a relatively low-cost advertising possibility that if taken, if anybody signs up for that option, it would cover completely the cost of the installation in the first year. So,
Okay, well, I've got 2 questions. You stay right there. Kelly, can we take contributions, if that's the right word, from advertising?
I'm going to defer to Justin.
You have to look at it in that context. I know on the Heritage Trail owned by the county, there are some advertisements, but I think that's run through a not-for-profit. So I've got to look at that and
Okay,
get clarification.
Okay, so before we pursue that, and then the other question is, where we're proposing it, it's the parking lot in Fort Montgomery across from the post office, but it's really not a parking lot. I don't know if we're going to have to develop that into a parking lot with blacktop lines, the whole works. But I don't think that would be our that would be if the sponsors of this are going to allow it to be put in a non-parking lot.
yeah, I mean, I guess to some extent, if the town owns the charging station and there's any concern about safety in that parking lot, and that there's a liability potential for users of the charging station if it's not an official.
No, right.
Right.
Correct, and that's all accurate. I think the question is, would NYSERDA and offer the rebates in a location that doesn't meet their standards?
Well, the location isn't dependent on, the municipality or anything like that. But the gentleman who did this proposal and his electrical engineer were at the site, and they did not express any concerns about it.
No,
But I can ask him.
Yeah, well, it's not him, right? Because he's getting paid either way, right? I mean, I think we have to know that we would qualify for the
Right, but
rebate.
he's got the inside scoop with NYSERDA, I think, if he doesn't know, I could certainly go to NYSERDA and try to get that clarified.
Town board has to consider the liability concerns.
Okay. Okay. Any questions, town board?
I have one or a couple. I thought that was a parking lot. I've heard it referred to it by across from the post office. And so tangential to this, there are people who park there all the time. Are they, is that an issue? Is there an illegal parking that's going on? Do we not want to do that? A resident came up to me here a couple of months ago in terms of a revenue source for us is to start charging people to park there. I guess, and I've seen it occasionally, hikers, people from outside of the community coming in to access the trails in the area apparently park there a lot. And it seems like it would be a good way to attract bringing more people in to our local businesses in Fort Montgomery and Highland Falls if we would have an electric charging station there. And that seems to be, if it's going to be on town property, which is what we're talking about, why the town board and the taxpayers would be paying for this, then it seems like I'm sort of hard pressed to think where else there may be town property in Fort Montgomery other than that particular location. But I think another part that people need to be thinking about who may be listening is we're talking about town property for this. We're not talking about private property. So if the Holiday Inn wants to do this, if Bear Mountain Pizza wants to do this, if someone else in Fort Montgomery, another business would like to do this, can we say, go talk to Olga about this? Because I think it's going to be the same price, I believe, the same rebates, the same incentives and those kinds of things. And a month or two ago at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, Olga was, I think, possibly the same individual you've been talking to.
Right.
There was a very good presentation there about this. And that individual came up with, I thought, a very good idea about, and I don't have an electric vehicle. I don't know how long it takes these vehicles to charge. But a business be thinking about bringing this in and maybe having some kind of incentive of, for the first hour that you're charging your vehicle, it's free of charge. And then anytime after that, there's some kind of fee that is paid. And of course, if you're sitting there waiting for your vehicle to charge, what's sort of the next, thing that could happen? They're going to go into your business. They're going to buy something to eat, something to drink, do whatever the case is. So I would encourage any of you in here or any of our businesses that are out there to be thinking about this also. But if we do look at this from a town perspective, I think we need to look at it not only from an environmental and a convenience perspective, but I think we need to look at to see how we can possibly get some revenue associated with this. And if that means we need to do something with that parking lot, maybe that's something that we need to factor in to what the real cost of this might be.
That's something we should do. I mean,
Yeah,
it should
so because people are parking there, as we all know. So that's it.
be.
At one time, that area was, used the word contaminated, and we had to try to discourage people from being there. I think it was still being monitored. Is that still ongoing now? Has that been signed off by the DEC?
Yeah, we got a clean bill of health.
We got a clean bill
Yes,
of health,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that might be worth noting anyway, if that's a former, what do you call that, brownfield? Yeah,
at one time.
that might even help.
I think I have it somewhere, but I'm not sure, because that's a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Question, Bob.
Yes. Yes,
I can clarify a little bit on the misconception. I was on this board when we got the clean bill of health for that property, which was the former town garage site. It was also, at that point, we had a presentation of a plan to do a mixed-use building on the property. to generate revenue and also have a large meeting space upstairs for local groups and possibly potentially the town board as well at that time. That was when that was Inga Quince's vision. And when Inga didn't run for reelection, the next supervisor came in, it just fell away and never was reintroduced back into the mix. It was a way to get revenue for that property, get that back on the tax rolls, so on and so forth. But what I'd like Olga to explain is that, how does the process work? Is it similar to, with this NYSERDA grant, if I'm not mistaken, it's similar to like what people have with like Tesla up at Cosmos in Newburgh? They have an account, or put a credit card down to pay for that. The electricity is not necessarily on the onus of the taxpayers, it's.
Right, there is a potential to work out, there is a potential to work out a revenue stream where there's a revenue sharing with the network provider. All of the fees for the charging don't have to go exclusively to the company that's running the network. It can be shared. That's part of what we can negotiate, and that happens a lot. So the town would probably pay for electrical, but there would be a revenue stream that would come back that would hopefully cover that. But we can look at doing a total cost of ownership, should you want me to go that route.
Thank you.
And I would suggest if we're interested in doing this, which I think is a really good idea personally, if we're interested in doing this, then I think we need to maybe take the next step again about not only the electric vehicle charging station, but anyone else who doesn't have an electric vehicle who wants to park there. What are we going to do about that? And look at, do we need to set something up? Do we need to charge parking, some nominal fee?
Yeah, those are dedicated parking spots for the charging station, so nobody else. I've never seen anybody else park there in the village, so I really don't think that's a difficult.
That's
thing.
nobody's suggesting. He's
No.
suggesting the balance of the lot should be a municipal lot that people pay to park it.
Right, and we could talk all kinds of different alternatives about that. It's beyond the electric vehicle. That would be something that would bring electric vehicles to the lot. But maybe it's something that if you are a resident of the town of Highlands, it's free of charge. Maybe there's a little sticker like we used to have at the transfer station or whatever. But I'm talking about capturing, as people start to come back into the community, visitors, people who are using it. How do we get them to ante up here a little bit? How do we get them to visit some of our businesses? How do we get them to visit some other things rather than just parking and go hiking someplace?
It could be a kiosk that, you put up
Yeah,
there.
sure, there's all kinds of things, so, yeah.
But people have to put a credit card down to pay for the use of the charging station, or they have to.
You can do it through an app.
Or through an app, but they pay for that charging, so that fee is collected by
The network that runs the system.
so then the network would have to be responsible for paying for the electricity, because otherwise the town taxpayer is footing the bill for the electricity, and this other company is getting all the fees.
But there's a revenue sharing that could be
Yeah, well, that
done.
would have,
It would have to, yeah,
Yeah.
and I would totally encourage that.
either that, or they would have to, we would have to bill them for the electricity, if that
Right,
had
yeah.
separately metered.
Yeah, that could be done too. I mean, that's all negotiable.
Another question back there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just one, okay, is there a time constraint on these things, or to keep people from parking on that charger for 5-6 hours? Or
It can be, I mean, there's, all of that can be set up in the system. If you wanted to, you could say park, like you said, park for free for an hour while you do business here, and then after that, charges kick in, or,
Yeah.
there's lots of ways to slice and dice that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, financial reports, we transferred into the paying account $31,268 to cover the check run dated June the 6th. Still saying it wrong. I was in the Army too long, my numbers don't run right. But anyway, June the 3rd. The big items are four-star transmission, $2,417. That's for the Highway Department truck. Orange and Rockland, $2,476 for streetlights. Ryder, Winter, and Frankel, $9,100. That's for May Legal Services. Ham Enterprise, $4,700 for sewer sludge removal and to jet one of the lines at a pump station. We have some budget transfers requested by our controller. She wants to move from town board training to supervisor other expenses, $200 for new ink for the new printer. I used to go out and get ink from a place in Stony Point that was these returnable cartridges, and they were very cheap, and it made me sick to see how much buying the real ink is. Anyway, she also wants us to move from town hall planning and renovations to codification, $1,340 for updates and enhancements to reprint the town code. And summer recreation contractual to summer recreation supplies, $1,000 for purchasing supplies to make up for the lack of trips. I'll ask for a motion to approve these transfers.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So carried, thank you. Before we go into the board liaison, I'd like to speak, as I did last meeting. Last Monday at the village board meeting, a petition was introduced requesting a vote by the residents of Highland Falls to dissolve the Highland Falls Police Department. The petition was signed by 344 residents. No action was taken by the board. Mayor D'Onofrio remarked that twice he asked me for the town's plan on providing coverage by the town's PD in the village, should this go through. Both requests were casual and general, and I told him that a plan would be forthcoming. I have our chief and our deputy working on their input, and once I have that, we will go to our controller to project the cost. It's worth noting that the chief and the deputy chief have a combined 75 years of experience, and I have no doubt that they can put together a proper plan to properly take care of the village should they decide to dissolve the police department. In order to make this work before our 2022 budget, we need to somehow come about with a commitment from the village of budgeted monies from their budget and projected equipment transfer from their police department. Hopefully, there will be a vote by the residents of Highland Falls, and yay or nay, this issue can be put to bed after 20-plus some years of talking about it. Town board, we had 2 town board members at the meeting. Do you have anything, Rich?
Oh, God, I could talk for the next 3 hours if you want me to.
Cut it down to 5
All
minutes.
my lifetime. First of all, I don't get too involved in who's better, or which party you belong to, or the town, or the village. Keep it pragmatic, and keep it just a good discussion. So the first thing I think the village should have to decide is, do they want to be policed full-time or part-time? Those are 2 completely different models. We have a part-time force here. It's been that way for a long time. Back in 1996, Gary Lent was a judge. He called a town meeting. My older brother was a commanding officer out of Troop F in Middletown. They were going to bring the New York State Police here just to have a station here and have blanket coverage as they do in other places. That kind of fell apart when Inga was supervisor. She tried doing the same thing and that fell apart. So they're not here. They've had an interest over the years, but they make it well known that they're not going to come in and harm any other department. I think the people of Highland Falls should look sometime at what happened in the village of Wappingers Falls When they dissolve that police department, they usually don't go away without a little bit of resistance. I'll leave it at that. Just look that up and see what happened up there. There was a thing in their resolution, they forgot to address seeker, and the whole thing was reversed. So if you're gonna do it, don't do it recklessly. My final statement is, we're the town. They said back in January that you cannot have a special district for police. If they dissolve the Village of Highland Falls, we have to police them, and we will address that based upon what it is they think their needs are. So that's how I see it.
Thank you. Jim, you were at the meeting.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with the statement, and yes, I was at the meeting. The village board did not make a decision yet as to what they were going to do. I've made my opinion known and my belief that, you know, this is squarely a decision that the village board needs to decide upon. There are a lot of feelings on both sides of the issue within Highland Falls by residents, and I think there is certainly an important aspect of letting residents vote on this. That's my personal opinion from a Highland Falls perspective, and put this thing to bed. I mean, I know for as long as my wife and I have been living in the community, this has been talked about, which is like a nanosecond compared to how long this has been going on. And so I think now's the time. I think Highland Falls needs to put this behind them. I would reiterate that, you know, the town is committed to doing the policing if in fact that is what the decision is by the residents. And the town model currently is staffed, the police are staffed with part-time police officers, but it is a full-time police function, 7/24. And our commitment is to see no degradation in the policing of Highland Falls if Highland Falls so decides to dissolve their police.
Thank you.
My only other statement, oh, sorry, Ty, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, just like, you know, we live in this world, I know it's not popular to say this here, where 3/4 of the people are employed in the public sector. I do a lot for the town, and sometimes that hurts my personal life. Sometimes I don't inspect vehicles. Sometimes I get pulled over on Route 84 for not having those inspections. And I ran a check on the officer that wrote me the ticket. He was making $151,000 a year. So just face the reality that that is what's happening out there. It's not cheap to have full-time police. Not that cheap to have part-time either.
Thank you. Ty, you have anything?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, I've been here, retired from the military, sitting on the board here for, you know, 6 years now. And so the entire time I've been back home, this has been a subject. And so we sat through, during my first term, a study that was done by the previous mayor, and it cost the taxpayers money. And so then, recently, I heard that there's going to be potentially another study. And then I found out, historically, there was a study in the 90s. I mean, I'm just an old soldier. I just try to figure out how much studying you need to do before you make some sort of decision. I don't know. But if you want to know what I think, my opinion, yeah, the village should make a decision. It looks like a sizable number of people that are residents of the village are demanding that. And should they decide to dissolve, I feel confident, 110%, that the force that we have in the town could also police the village. That's what I feel.
Rich, you have anything?
I've been on the board close to 16 years. It's been talked many times. A decision hopefully can be reached, but there will be costs associated. No matter which way it goes, the village is dissolved, there still will be costs for equipment, manpower, and providing a necessary service. So, but we're not driving that. We'll be here to help, but we're not driving that right
Exactly.
now. So.
I think it's interesting to note that 344 people signed a petition, and that's more, we'll call it votes, than there were in the election. And I don't mean total votes, but I mean everybody who got elected in this past election for the village didn't get 344 votes. So it's just interesting to look at. There's that many concerned people out there that They don't want it their way, they want it done. They want it a yay or a nay, as I just said. Anyway, we'll move on. Let's see. I have a couple of things that are not on the agenda, and Justin, would you start out with the memorandum and agreement with the
Sure, with the
PBA and the police department?
PBA, certainly. The PBA sent over a MOA based upon the resolutions that the town board passed at the last special meeting with respect to Officers Sherwood and Rapoli. And this agreement memorializes the agreement to have both officers back at their seniority and rank and serve their probationary term, and simply is a longer version of your resolution. So I think it's perfectly appropriate. We went back and forth on the wording just to get it right, and if someone wants to make the motion to approve the memorandum of agreement, it's already been signed by both officers and the PBA representative.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Ty. I'll second it.
Okay,
Second?
here we
All in
go.
favor? I better do a roll call.
Yes, Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye. Okay, Kelly, I'm going to call on you with this class agreement.
Sure, so, thank you.
I think we were putting money into a savings institution because the money on class dried out, but now class has money, interest rates that are comparable to the institutions.
Correct. So classes, we used to invest with class, and then their interest rates went down to zero, so we pulled the money out, and it's been sitting in the bank, our reserve fund money specifically, and has been earning very, very little interest. So class reached out to me a while ago. We spoke about this back in December. As the interest rates go up, I think it's a great alternative to invest the town's money in. At the moment, the fees from the bank that we're using are pretty high, and if we take out that large chunk of money, they have an analysis they do each month at the bank. It's called compensating balances. So we keep a large enough amount of money in the bank that we don't actually pay fees. The balance of the money in the account offsets the fees. If we take all of the money out now, we'll probably incur fees. So I've spoken to, his name is Joel Friedman at Class Account, and he suggested we go ahead and open up our account with Class. I can put a small amount of money in there for now and send out an RFP to other banks to see if we can't get something that would charge us less in fees, because our bank fees now are pretty high. So this at least gives us the opportunity to get the account open and to be poised to move it when we get those bank fees down.
All right, so I need a motion to pass a resolution to authorize cooperative investment, to authorize the cooperative investment agreement with New York Cooperative Liquid Asset Security System. That's New York Class. That's, I think that's the first time I've ever seen what class meant. But anyway, so I'll ask for a motion to
I'll move
move
that.
the resolution.
It's nice to have options, and we have used this in the past.
Yes.
And it worked out good, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second, roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, this is another agreement. Kelly or Justin, can you,
You or me?
I can.
Okay.
So recently, I was looking at our ambulance collections, and it came to my attention that unpaid ambulance bills for non-residents we've not been pursuing collecting those unpaid fees. This resolution would authorize us to use a company called Commercial Acceptance Company. They would pursue unpaid ambulance fees for non-residents only, people outside of our zip codes. The gentleman at this company that I spoke to, they would keep 25% of anything they were able to recover for us. And they'll set up payment plans, they work with people, they're compassionate, and, but they gave me a list of other municipalities they work for, and I did speak to 3 of them. They were very pleased with the work that they've done. So this would be a means for us to increase our revenue, which I think was the intent originally when we switched billing companies. I don't know how this fell through the cracks, but it did, and now we're addressing it. And this company also can go back 4 years, so 4 years of uncollected ambulance billing. They'll go back and try and recoup some of that.
Apparently, last year, Kelly, $60,000 was written off,
That's correct.
and so far this year, $35,000
That
has
is
been written
correct.
off.
Another $7,500 for May.
So it's not hurting anybody in town. and,
Correct.
All these accidents at the circle most certainly will bring revenue in for an ambulance company that deserves it.
Right, that's correct.
So I'll ask for a motion to move the resolution of the town board authorizing a retainer agreement, commercial acceptance company for ambulance collection fees.
I readily make the motion for that.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, no,
Aye.
no.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin? Supervisor Lindsay?
Aye.
Thank you.
Board liaison, let me see, board liaison reports. Start off with you, Jen.
Oh, okay. I know we're going to be talking about the ambulance in some more detail a little bit later on, so I'll save some of those comments. Yes, today is Flag Day. Also, it's the birthday of the United States Army, so happy birthday to that organization. I had an opportunity to attend the Community Coalition meeting. They have this the first Wednesday of each month. It's organized by Ann Molina and others. The topic happened to be this past month, earlier this month, was the new New York State marijuana legalization law that we've talked to a couple of times on the board. Just for the information for the board and others that may be listening, I was surprised to hear that the expectation, and I think I'm saying this right, the expectation of a potential significant tax revenue from the sale by businesses who are licensed to sell marijuana in the local community. At the end of the day, the amount of tax revenue that we will see is going to be very small. And there's a formula, there's a calculation. Once the state takes what it will take to run the program, then there's a 40-40-20 split. One of the 40s goes to the communities, but the numbers that they were citing, and that's part of what we will need to find out is, are these numbers right numbers? Because it's all a moving target right now, is it will be less than a penny on the dollar of taxes collected is what we will see coming back to the community. So what this means is certainly New York State has passed a law legalizing the use of marijuana. That's, you can read about that. What we need to do as far as the town outside of the village needs to do the same thing, is determine whether or not we are going to opt out of this. We have until the end of December to make that determination, and Supervisor, you talked about that before. And really what this opting out is whether or not we are going to opt out of allowing a business or businesses to come in to sell marijuana. So any expectation that we might have about any kind of tax, sales tax associated with that, right now, from what I'm hearing, that's not going to be part of the discussion because we're not really going to be seeing that much, which was news to me. I was thinking we were going to see something else that would be something to be thinking about as we discuss all this. And so I just wanted to bring that up to the board to get us thinking about that as this keeps going down. And again, of course, that's a discussion that is 6 months from now, is the 31st of December. So that's looming. And as was mentioned, I did attend the village board meeting. We talked about that before. And the rest of my comments are going to be when we talk about the ambulance corps here in a little bit later on.
Okay,
So thank you.
but talking about the ambulance corps, I'd like to bring to everyone's attention that Ryan Walker, who's sitting back there with our camera, he passed his practical exam as an EMT, and I have... Pardon me?
Still gotta do the rest.
Still got to do the written, but I have no doubt that you're going to pass the written. So congratulations.
All right, good job, Ryan.
Not much, just the highway department, sanitation department still doing their great job. The assessor is getting cranked up for the new tax rolls. And other than that, I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Councilman King?
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. So, a few notes here. I got from the Town of Highlands Recreation for Seniors and Adults, encouraging folks to reserve your seat at the monthly health presentations at the Center of Highland Falls Incorporated, 274 Main Street, Highland Falls, third Wednesdays of the month from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So the next one is June 16th. And then following that one will be September 15th. But the presenter is Ms. Sue Nichols, a registered dietitian and nutritionist. Come with your concerns and your questions. All right, so this is for our seniors. We already talked about the dial-a-bus. The only thing I would say additional is that, I'm a big proponent of the dial-a-bus because as we saw, not only during the pandemic, but pre-COVID, the increase in usage of that particular transportation mechanism, particularly for our seniors, right? And so as we get into that discussion about the next, Colleen, just know that we got to keep that bus, okay? Recreation, I got a chance to go out and have my own sort of flashbacks by sitting on the Little League field and watching some Little League baseball. It was pleasant to see that a lot of kids was there, a lot of parents was there, the volunteer coaches. It was just a great day at the ballpark, as they say. Up until the point where we got thunder. Not lightning, but just thunder, because you know the rules, right?
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you hear the thunder, you got to wait 30 minutes, I think it is. And so let's say the thunder booms and you're waiting 30, but while you're waiting 30, it booms again. You add another 30 on there.
Yeah.
So at some point, you just keep doing that till somebody calls the game, and that's what happened the night I was there. But hats off to the recreation director, Aaron Falk, who was out there, and all the other folks, the coaches and so forth. Emergency management, I would just continue to encourage people to realize that, yeah, life feels pretty good right now relative to last year, but we still have a pandemic going on. Don't make any mistakes about it. So get your vaccinations if you have not done so. If you have not, then continue to wear your mask and social distance and do all those things that are precautionary and protect yourselves and others. The good news is New York State is less than 1%, 1% of infection rate, right? So people testing, folks that are testing is less than 1% coming back positive. Positivity rate, that's what I was looking for. Compared to several months ago, it was 4%, and then, astronomical before that. So something appears to be working. The only thing I can think of is folks getting vaccinated. We got about 70% of adults in New York are vaccinated. And now I'm told that their kids are getting vaccinated, like 12 years old and something like that. So, man, New York is looking pretty good. Let's keep it up. Juneteenth, I was going to say, a reminder that this is the week for the celebration of the end of slavery in America in 1865. As we know, President Abraham Lincoln gave the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, declaring the African American slaves as free. Unfortunately, back then, we didn't have text messages and we didn't have cell phones and all the things that can make communication blaze across the country. And so then we also had people that were unwilling to adhere to that Emancipation Proclamation. So the people in Galveston, Texas, who were slaves, did not get released until 2 years later, 1865. So that's what we're celebrating here in the town of Highlands, and we've been doing it for 6 years. This will be our 6th annual Juneteenth celebration in little old Highland Falls, town of Highlands, New York. I'm proud to say that because you just noticed last year it got real popular to talk about Juneteenth on the national level.
Yeah.
But yet we were already doing that for a long time. So let's continue. We got a parade scheduled for 11:30 a.m. on Saturday, starting at Southgate. And when I say parade, it may not be a whole bunch of props and floats, but I just want people to come out and march on behalf of freedom. And we certainly will have some motorcycles out there. We will have our police officers out there, both the village and the town, and maybe some more emergency management folks out there. But we're going to go from Southgate down to Memorial Park, where we do a flag-raising ceremony. We'll have the Honorable Mayor Torrance Harvey from Newburgh, New York, as the keynote speaker. Directly after, we have some vendors, one of which is the Grand Mango. If you ever been out to the farmer's market on Sunday, and if you smell some jerk chicken and oxtails, well, that vendor will be back on Saturday to have some delicacies out there. And bigger than that, maybe, is the fact we're going to have the marvelous Mervyn Livesey Jr. Doing face painting. He might have his whole get up on, so that's always cool to see, because the kids really line up for that right there. So the beauty of this celebration, it's going to be diverse. We're going to have a lot of different people from different persuasions, but one thing in common: celebrating freedom. So that's all I got.
Thank you, sir. Richard?
Thank you. As I always do, I will let you know that the Zoning Board of Appeals meets on the third Wednesday of every month. People interested in government, they're still remote, but that's no problem. It's on our website. Thank you, Kelly, for putting it on there. This Wednesday, June 16th, they will meet remotely. If you go to the Town of Highlands website, go to Meetings Online. Everything you need to participate or not participate, watch the meeting. Public comment is allowed, but it's controlled. There's no public hearing at this meeting. I think they have a matter on Mine Road which was deferred to them for variances by the planning board. Is that correct, Justin? Walker?
Yes, that's correct.
The planning board will meet this Thursday. They meet on the third Thursday of the month here at Town Hall. I don't know what's on their agenda, and I don't know what Town Hall protocol is for meetings like that. Apparently, are we done with mass? Whatever the protocol is, Eric usually requires that that protocol be followed, whatever that is.
If you've been vaccinated, you have a choice. If you have not been vaccinated, you have no choice. You have to wear one.
But they will be meeting here, and Justin can confirm that because he'll be here with them. Thank you. All right. The Community Environmental Advisory Committee, we met last Friday night at the Community Garden down at Holy Innocents, and Olga sent you all, she talked about the review proposal. The other hot topic at that meeting was talking about the steering committee's duties and origin for the community choice aggregation administrator selection. I can't thank Mindy, Olga, and a couple of the people, and Cindy as well, but other people I haven't met yet, Lisa Young, Jane Oswald, and Julia Hood, for participating in this. Did I leave anybody out, Mindy? I don't think so, right? We're good? Okay. And we're gonna be meeting, Mindy can speak to this if she wants, before the end of this month to get going. I think we have till the end of the year. We're gonna be done long before that, but we will hopefully by July or August be interviewing people and have some, recommendations to make. It was a pleasure attending that meeting, as it always is. The building department, so I'm a little bit behind. Last month I had the March report, which I had done in April anyway, so I have April, I'll have May at the next meeting. So in the month of April, there were 16 permit applications were received, 24 issued, 27 certificates of occupancy were issued, 23 building permits. It says here 0 fire safety inspections, I'll talk about that. 13 advisory notice violations were issued. One of those violations was completed. Sometimes you got to go back and forth 3 or 4 times. 9 municipal searches, 1 planning board application, 6 FOIL requests, and 37 total number of physical inspections. On the fire inspections, as everybody's heard me say, the building department doesn't have anybody in the seat of the chief's position. That's working out rather handsomely because we are using a consultant who fits us well. And that consultant was used for some fire inspections. And I'll come out and say this, to date, that's been about $8,000 for that service. The building department, the person not being there that would have been making $63,000 a year. We've eaten away, not even, I'm gonna say $20,000 into that amount. We're more than halfway through the year using a consultant. Philip Hannawalt is a gem. He's working very hard down there. And I'm going to be careful when I talk about this little piece of information here. I'm well aware, as of the building department, of matters going on down at the old American Burrito Building, the Christina Hotel. The building inspector is aware that there's occupancy, and it is being addressed as per the code, not recklessly. He and Justin and Elise are dealing with it as per our code, and I just want to see it knock it out of hand with recklessness. It's being dealt with. Water, we're not, I mentioned a while back, how we had 20 years ago, money was not set aside, it was spent to prepare a water site at Corbin Hill for a future tank. We don't have storage, everybody's heard me say that, and there's some lots down there that are slowly encroaching upon what the town owns. I'm not sure if the survey crew made it there yet, but they will be there soon to delineate our lines as we passed our resolution a while back. And I think that on the sewer, I don't have their flows in front of me or anything. The sewer is just like, kind of like a never-ending story, I guess I could say, but we're moving along. They will be done by August with the EFC project down there. Looks like that's a plausible accomplishment that they will attain. And the dechlorination, those matters are being addressed, and I've called Tam a couple of times about different bills I'm trying to get reduced, and that's my report.
Thank you, sir. The sewer story is not a romance, it's a horror story. How about our attorney? Do you have anything for us? Did I miss anything?
I don't believe you missed anything.
Okay. Kelly, do you have anything for us?
I just wanted to mention that last Wednesday, I attended a webinar on the American Rescue Plan Act and the funds that the town's going to receive through that. For the local governments here in New York State, there's about $774 million available, and it will be divvied up among the municipalities based on population. We are going to have to apply to get that money. It will be given to, it's not just going to come directly to us. We have to apply. New York State still doesn't have a portal available through which we would apply. So as soon as that's open, we can make the application. There's certain things you have to have in place first. You have to have a DUNS number and things like that. So all of that is done. And this Wednesday, I'm going to attend another webinar that will give some detail as to how the money can be spent, because there are very specific criteria for how to spend this money. But I will say that one of the approved things that it can be spent on is infrastructure, including water and sewer. And then I'll let you know after I attend this Wednesday, what I get from that.
Great.
It's a very informative webinar.
Thank you, thank you. Chief Perry is on a holiday for a week. Deputy Chief, do you have anything for us? Nothing, huh?
Going good.
Okay, okay. You're on, Jim.
Okay, thank you. The agenda item we're talking about is the staffing of the ambulance corps, Town of Highlands Volunteer Ambulance Corps. I know the town board has been talking about this for the last several months. And so some of this may be a repeat for all of you, but I think it's important that the audience understands and some of our residents also understand that there is a real concern about the answering of calls by ambulance corps, not just in the town of Highlands, not just in Orange County, but New York statewide. It is a problem. There's a study that New York State did back in 2019 that cites the problem. Part of the problem is the incentives for someone to become an EMT. So congratulations to Ryan again for doing that, and others in the community who have those qualifications and desire to do that. But it being, quite frankly, a career path compared to, and pay associated with that, compared to someone who may also be interested in becoming a police officer, a firefighter, or some other type of emergency management type of individual. Pay differential for EMTs, and this is statewide, lags that of entry-level police on the order of maybe 150% difference. So in other words, here in the town of Highlands, our pay rate for an EMT is $16.59. The initial pay for a police officer is about $26, $27. And there are no step increases as there are with police officers. And so there is a concern, again, not just in the town of Highlands, but within Orange County and across the state, seeking to get more pay, seeking to go where there may be greater opportunity. So we have an issue with how we are paying our EMTs and the potential attrition that we may start seeing. Also, the supervisor and others of us have talked a lot about, it is a volunteer ambulance corps. We need volunteers. The drivers of the ambulances are volunteers. They can also be EMTs, but predominantly they are volunteers. There are, to be blunt, there are a handful of volunteers in our ambulance corps that are routinely drivers, but we need more than just a handful to be doing that. A lot of our volunteers are getting burned out, and it's difficult to get more volunteers. So if you are interested, a plea to the community, the health of our volunteer ambulance corps is going to depend a lot on getting volunteers, and volunteers willing to actually volunteer and put some time in. And contact me, contact the ambulance corps if you're interested in doing that. We need them. So there is a driver issue. There is a concern about EMTs moving to other locations that are going to be offering them more pay, to be blunt. And that is happening. So it's something that we need to think about, something we need to take action on. To give you some information, that back in January, there were a total of 59 calls that our ambulance corps, calls for ambulance service. Town of Highlands was able to answer 47 of those 59 calls. That means we were at around 80% of the calls that were made in January, Town of Highlands was able to respond to. Mutual aid, mutual support responded to the others. In February, that rate of response by our ambulance corps went to 82%. In March, it dropped back down to 78%. In April, it went back up to 84%. And last month in May, it dropped down to 73%. So around 70 to 80% of our calls, and I think residents need to know this, around 70 to 80% of our calls, high 70s, 80% of our calls, we are able to respond to because we have the EMTs in place and we have the drivers in place. The rest of them, we are not able to. They are responded to by mutual aid from other locations. Someone calls 911, 911 operator will dispatch, and the first dispatch will come to our ambulance corps, and if we're not able to respond, it goes down a list that Orange County 911 has as far as mutual aid is concerned. This gives us through January through May, there were 269 calls for ambulance service. We were able to respond to 214 of them, which is just shy of 80% of the calls we were able to do. So that's what the facts are. And that's where we are as far as our volunteer ambulance corps is concerned. There has been something that we've talked about on the board about a way to stop the loss of calls. Personally, I'd like to see us get more than 80%. I know if I call 911 and I'm looking for an ambulance, you know, I'm wanting it to happen and respond very quickly, and I think everyone would agree with that. And so the proposal that we've talked about before, but I'd like to make a motion to help us maintain our EMTs and also to be able to have more hours that otherwise our part-time EMTs are capped at being able to provide because they are part-time. That's 29 hours. You've heard that number with some other things that we've talked about tonight with part-time employees. So the motion I would like to make is that we convert 2 existing part-time EMTs, convert them to full-time EMTs, and increase their rate from $16.59 to $19 an hour. The $19 an hour is well within what the market is offering right now. The local market within Orange County, that range is between $17.50 to about $23. So the 19 is a nice middle ground. And by increasing those 2 EMTs from part-time to full-time, that will increase the time that they can be on duty and respond from 29 hours to 40 hours each. So that's an additional 11 hours per person. And what this will also allow the ambulance corps to do is the very good likelihood of 2 EMTs in an ambulance responding to a call. If a driver is not available, again, the drivers are volunteer. So if a driver is not available who's a volunteer, that would be worked out on a weekly schedule, and one of the full-time EMTs partnered with a part-time EMT would be able to do that. And that is a way that I see personally in working with the ambulance corps to be able to at least give us more ability to answer more calls than what we're doing right now. As a side note, and the board knows this, I don't know if the community knows it or not, but the New Windsor Ambulance Corps has sent a notice around to the various local communities that they are no longer providing both basic and advanced life support systems. So it's going to be, they are, if activated by 911 to respond to a call in the town of Highlands, they have been directed by their town supervisor to not respond to that call. Now, there are others. There's mobile life, there's commercial businesses and things like that will take place. But again, this is not, it is an issue that we need to come to grips with from a local perspective, but this is an issue a lot bigger than just the town of Highlands, a lot bigger than Orange County. One final note on this, and I'll stop, is that it's such an issue that recently, earlier this year, New York State Legislature passed a bill. It's sitting on the governor's desk. He has until January 31st of this year to sign it. Otherwise, if he doesn't, it goes into law, that addresses this issue specifically of rural emergency services, EMT types of issues across the state. That's the good news, in my opinion. It's unfortunate that it's going to be a study that the state is going to do. It's going to be the setting up of a commission to be able to go into and look at this, interview people, and things like that. So that's great. It's got the state's attention. It does certainly seem to be a statewide issue, but that's not going to help us right now. And so that's my motion. That's what I'd like to put on the floor for us to consider.
Yeah, is there a second? And if there is a second, then we'll have discussion.
Second.
Okay,
Mr.
Now-
King, it can be all yours.
discussion.
Okay, can I go?
Sure.
Jim and I spoke, I need just a couple of minutes. I want the people out there to think that this wasn't, well thought out, and Jim gave me an hour of his time to talk about this. So first thing I want to let people know, I was on the Board of Ed for 10 years, and on this board, it's a regular practice for a board to release unassigned funds at budget time to keep the tax levy down. The school used to have a law, I don't know if it still exists, they can't have more than 4% in that fund by law. But they sometimes will release 400,000, 500,000. Last year, I forget just how much we released, but we did something extra special. If Kelly wants to correct me, out of the ambulance corps SA fund, we released $50,000 to help keep down last year.
That's correct.
I think that fund probably has about $140,000 left in it now. And I think that's where the money came from for the stretcher, the chest compression machine, and I forget the other item. Was it the AED?
The AED, and there's a stair chair also.
And no objections to that whatsoever. So I just want to make sure that, as we go into this is going to deplete that fund a little bit to pay for these. Not to a dangerous level, but it's down there, and it's a practice that I would not normally engage in. However, I feel as if we're giving the ambulance corps, forgive me, palliative care. I think that we need to do this. And in terms of, we had the discussion too about could we just hire drivers? But when you told me the lack of availability of EMTs, I think there's one on the Orange County list right now, and that our EMTs, respectfully, if they're watching, are probably going to bail for what we're paying. I say we have no choice but to offer them something or watch it crumble. So it'll have my support.
Yeah, prior to Jim was the liaison for the ambulance corps, so I'm well aware of this problem, been talking about it for a while, not as eloquently as he, so certainly I commend him on what he just delivered. But I would just say this, for me, it just boils down to something pretty simple. How much is somebody's life worth? So I'm not gonna get into all the taxpayer stuff. I know we got fiscal responsibility we have to be concerned about, but it's well past due time to invest in this ambulance corps before we either A, don't have it, or there'd be a catastrophe that we wouldn't be able to live with. So I definitely support it.
Chris?
I am supportive. I'd like to thank Jim for all the work and research that he did on this matter. I think he's wrapped it up. You go back when the ambulance corps was originally set up, it was done to just pick up somebody, take them to the hospital. But with all the new current regulations that apply not only to ambulance corps, but also fire departments, emergency personnel, you have to start moving that care closer to the incident itself. But that drives up the cost. So that's what we're at right now. The costs are there. As long as we have the funds in the budget, I think it's money well spent, but it opens up the discussion for down the road. What's the right role for us or a path for us to take going into the future? But we need the personnel there now to take care of it.
The only comments I can make is, this is going to cost $100,000 a year, above what we've budgeted for. So in the mid-year now, it's another $50,000. Are we talking about just the 2 full-time EMTs? The other EMTs are not going to go to $19 an hour?
That is what I am proposing tonight,
Okay.
yes.
Because I would anticipate that would create a problem.
And so we would have to look at that, but I think that's something that, my personal opinion, something that we're gonna have to talk about when we go into the budget for next year. I think the way I'm looking at this, and this is purely me, the way I'm looking at this is that we've got to, it's almost like the little Dutch boy putting his thumb in the dike. That, you know, that's what we gotta do right now. Now, is there gonna be something else that we're gonna have to deal with? Most likely, yes. And I think in the sense of what about the other EMTs, I think we're going to have to look at that. We're going to have to figure out what makes the most sense with that. But right now, in the month of April and in the month of May, we're starting to see a trend of things going down. Why? Have no idea. Are people more active? Are they getting outside more? Or is it seasonal? I don't know. I don't know. After a year, we'll be able to see if there's some seasonality to some things. And maybe we can think about that. But I think we're at a point, and you know, and again, as Richie was saying, that we as a board here, speaking for the taxpayers, we have invested already in the ambulance corps with some very, very key equipment. That Lucas machine was actually out, and in fact, Ryan may know better, but Lucas machine was out here recently at unfortunately, a fatality that took place at Bear Mountain Circle. It was being used to try to help with that. The AED machine is here, the power system, the stretcher, probably into this month, early July timeframe, that's gonna be here. The stair chair is going to be later on, so we're equipping them with the right equipment, but we got to make sure we keep the people and we have the people and the trained people to be doing this. Does us no good if the ambulances are sitting in the bay.
Okay. I really appreciate all the work you've done on this. And the only thing I would ask you to further do is there's got to be some sort of an SOP for these 2 people that are going to be full-time. They can't just go to the building and hop on a couch and sleep the day out. There has to be duties, a full 8 hours, 4 hours of duties. They just can't go and relax and watch TV. There has to be duties. So if you would give me that motion again, that we...
That I started with?
Huh?
That I started with? Okay, I should have written it down. Okay, yeah. all right.
Yeah, give us the motion, fine.
Is it the, you adding to it or subtracting from it? We already had a motion and a second,
Yes,
so after the
I
discussion.
just want the motion, that's all, just to remember.
Okay. Hold on, I lost it. Oh, you want to convert 2 existing EMTs
Part-time.
from part-time to full-time, increase the salary from $16.59 to $19.
Yes.
Okay, and I had a second by,
We had a motion by Councilman Moblin, second by Councilman
and
Sullivan.
I'd like to do roll call.
Sure. Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Perry?
Aye.
Councilmember Moblin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye. Okay,
See, I was paying attention.
Justin, I have some homework for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Before I give you your homework, I should have done this before. I'd like to welcome our county legislator, Lori Tortel. I appreciate you coming to our meeting.
Thank you, thank you. For full disclosure, I'm fully vaccinated, but I have a family member who cannot be vaccinated, so this is just an extra layer of protection for that.
Thank you. Okay, I talked to Tectonic today about the tower at, I hate to call it a tower, which is not a real tower, at the town garage. I suggested to him about rather than this $850 a month, I suggested we might be happy at $1,000 a month. Okay, he explained to me the other towers that I cited are much bigger towers, taking much more space. I think this one's only 12 by 12, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's a modest
Yeah,
space.
and so I told him to send a proposal off to you So once you get that, then we'll bring it up at our next meeting,
Okay,
okay?
absolutely.
I sent you a big, long thing from John Dotson and the
High Point Utility.
High Point Utility. If you think it's warranted, you can bring it up, put something together for our next meeting on that.
Sure, yeah, I'd definitely like to hear from the board members on that. My concerns, and I only reviewed it briefly, where it indicates a lot within the resolution that I doubt you have knowledge of. Doesn't mean it didn't occur, but I don't know how you would be able to verify that. The last resolutions that were passed by the board in 2017 spoke more directly to things that you had direct knowledge of. It was supportive conceptually, but, and that may be what this board wants, but some of the particulars were hard to know based on that
That's what I'm
writing.
looking forward for you
Okay,
to.
I could work with that, but I certainly want feedback.
Okay. Dial-a-bus, moving it to the,
Yep, we'll do, yep,
Department.
that's assignment, that was assignment 1.
okay. Okay, fire inspections. There are many businesses that do not pay for their inspection, outright refuse to pay for their inspections. What I would like to do is to be able to put those fees onto the taxes. We talked about that before, once before, so if we can figure out the way to do that. Because I forget, you said there's 7,000,
I haven't looked at that in a long
there was
time.
quite a bit of
It
money,
was.
and it's what we do, what every municipality does, and every municipality pays for the inspectee pays for the inspection.
Yeah,
All right.
I don't see an issue with that, but you may just need an amendment to your code.
Okay, good. So those are the things I'd like to bring up next meeting.
Okay.
And general public comment, anybody have anything? Olga?
Yeah, I just, with regard to the American Rescue Plan, just wonder, I mean, I know you said that there's going to be published criteria for that.
Yes.
Has the board considered what they may want to utilize that money for regardless, so when the criteria are published, that you can be ready to take advantage of that application? And secondarily, would you be soliciting any public input for those nice little windfall, what seems?
I don't know why we shouldn't, so. Once we figure out what we're doing with it and how we're getting it and what we can apply for, there's no reason why we can't have a public hearing on it.
One of the things that they stressed was planning for the use of these funds. It's very, very important that the board, puts some effort into planning what we're going to use them for.
What we don't use after a certain period, we lose.
December 31st, 2024 has to be used by, unless there's a project in process. And also, whatever the amount is that we're going to get, we get half of it the first year and half of it the second year.
Any other public comment? Anybody? No one? I ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank